That was our new intro.
Welcome.
Back, and on that note, welcome everyone to the Tenacity Project. I forgot what video we were doing there for a second. The Tenacity Project, where we talk about all things personal development, some psychological stuff. Man, we get deep sometimes, but it's usually like we are having a chat somewhere. Like this morning, we're having a chat at the cafe, and we go, man, we should really talk about that on a video or a podcast. And so today, I was talking about should. I don't know, what was that noise?
No, he's going good.
Thought the camera died for a second. Wouldn't have been the first time.
Sucked.
So we talked about should, and as in the term should, and how people use it in the term of their own expectations, and how that actually sets people up for failure or disappointment or things like that. And so I'll just clarify what I mean by that. So when you say something is should, so if you say, you look back on your day and you go, oh, I should have done those things, or I should have got that done. So you're judging yourself for what you didn't do. Now, at first glance, some people won't be okay with that. But the big problem is that you're thinking about it from a point of view of fantasy. It's not real. And so when I say fantasy, I mean, when you say should, you are basing something on an imaginary scenario in your brain where you've thought through an action or a scenario to what the end result would be ideally. And that ideal result at the end has only been in your head. And so now you're saying you're punishing yourself based on a fantasy that you imagined would have been better than the situation you were in. And so some people, just based on that, will get very anxious or depressed or pissed off or whatever with their life or situation, just because they said, I should have done it this way. And so obviously the danger is you are living in a state of false or fake or fantasy expectation. Man, that was... did I get that all out? Did that make sense? Did that make sense to you?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it does.
By the way, thanks to Luciano for our top up today.
Yeah. Oat milk, flat white.
Oat milk, flat white. I'm glad you got me onto that.
Well, Reese got me onto it. When I first got the first one, I was like, oh, I can see why.
Yep. It tastes a bit like walnut to me.
It's nice, eh?
I think it's nice.
It's fucking amazing.
So writing it back to should and expectations. Right, so if we talk about we chatted about expectations and how that's actually what fucks people over. In any forms of life is their own expectations, and the problem is that they're usually built on a foundation of should. Right, and if you're just shooting everywhere, it's not a good foundation, right?
That sounds so wrong for what I'm saying.
But if you are building on a foundation that is a should, so like a fantasy, and then you conjure up these expectations about yourself or your life or other people, and if that doesn't happen, and then you get upset about it, your whole reality has been based on a fantasy. Nothing concrete.
You were saying regarding that, in terms of relationships and stuff. Should we get into that? I like what you were talking about earlier with that, like friendships, cheating, for example. It's like cheating is different for everyone. You know what I mean? Like what is cheating to you? Could be a kiss, could be a handshake, could be sleeping with someone. Do you know what I mean? But you were saying things that in terms of like the expectation and setting those things clear and set in stone. So then you have the same. So you're not living in the fantasy world of where you're always blaming. I think I'm getting this wrong.
No, I think you're on the right track. You're talking about how if people are in a relationship and one person does something that the other person deems as improper or just, they feel betrayed. And often in relationships, people don't discuss what is the hard line or that bright line rule. And so because it's never really covered, people might do stuff that they think is okay and the other person doesn't. And in some situations, they might end the relationship.
Yeah.
And because of that, the people get, they're stuck in the state, okay, well, my expectation is that this person won't cheat on me, right?
Yeah.
And the other person may say that on the surface, yeah, I agree, we shouldn't cheat on each other. But their versions of what that are different. What they feel people should or shouldn't do is what doesn't get covered off. Yeah. So if they literally need to sit down and say, what is cheating to you? And if they say, if you hold another person's hand, that's cheating. And they'll say, well, that's not cheating. It's when I do this or this.
It's flirting.
Yeah, but it's different for everyone, right? And so that whole thing where people get caught up in these expectations of that person cheated on me, therefore they betrayed me, did wrong, and the other person's like, I don't know what the big deal is. Yeah. And so they're stuck in this state of who's right. Yeah. Because everyone wants to be the person that's right. Yeah. Unfortunately, in those situations, and then you get the situations where, from that point, let's say you're the person who is the victim in the situation, and then depending on how you are with things like expectations in your own life, you may set yourself up further and say, well, you might start to blame yourself, as opposed to someone might blame another person in that situation. Yeah. They shouldn't have done that for whatever reason, and their expectation is X. Yeah. But let's say they start that way, and then they change it, and they go, well, I should have been better, or I should have been different. Yeah. I should have been enough. And so all of these things are not concrete, right? They're all based on an imaginary version of something that no one has ever, well, that person especially has probably not decided to quantify, even if it's even possible, true, or even helpful. Yeah. In a lot of cases, it's not, because it's not serving them to get better. Yeah. And we talked about how you went through a situation with someone where you split up, and she was upset that you didn't chase after her. Yeah. You know, like you didn't make enough effort to get her back. Yeah. And I think that was because, we talked about it, and it was at a stage where it just didn't feel like it was worth it, right? Yeah.
Well, it was like, I mean, this is not a relationship chat, right? But I think it will be a good example to talk about it and trying to understand it more in like different situations and stuff. In that situation, it was like I was getting confused messages. It was just like 1 minute she's like, I'm not coming after her. The next minute it's like she needed her space. So I'm like, well, fuck, I don't really know what to do here. It's like I've been given these two options and none of them is good. Both of them sucks. It's like, well, you either need space or you don't. And again, like it became my fault that I should be doing this when I should be doing something else. So, like I should be giving her space, but she wants me to be chasing after her at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Like, put it there. I mean, life, man, can pull in all sort of different directions. But
and it was probably because you just weren't clear on what the hell the rules were, right? Yeah. Because she was going, in her mind, she was saying things like, oh, he should be doing this and he should be doing that. And probably she would have said, I want this and I want that. And there might have been a time where you said, why should I do that? Yeah. And so...
Oh, and by the way, I'm not like saying like what she's done there was wrong. You know what I mean? Like I'm not bagging on her. I'm just
we're using it as an
example. Like it's not, it's always two sides to a story.
It just was the situation, right? Because you had there was stuff on your side that she would have been talking to people about, right?
There were things that I should have done properly and
could have done, should have done. All imaginary things.
Yeah, and you just take responsibility for how you fucked that up, and But
I think relationships is a really easy one because there's two people involved. Yeah, and it's easy to see how wires get crossed. Really simple, and it just comes down to what people think should happen, and then basing expectations on those shoulds, which just makes it even rockier as it goes. And it's no wonder that things can fall apart in an instant in romantic relationships, especially. Yeah, I think friendships are a little bit more forgiving in that situation.
That's a good point with expectations, right? And it's not just in relationship, but anything else, like dealing with clients and stuff. Like when you first meet up, it's like you set the expectations of the project right up front, so you know what you're doing, what you're supposed to be delivering, and they know what they're doing on their end to provide all the things that you need, right? So once those expectations are clear, then there shouldn't be any issues about who should be doing this, who should be doing that. That should be all set up in the beginning before you dive into the project, and with relationships as well. I mean, it's not something that people talk about most of the time, but it's nice to have that communication in the beginning and set expectations and understand each other a bit more. But I mean, I'm not a relationship expert, man. But
but you make a real good point. Is that people are so much better at doing this in their jobs or their businesses.
Yeah.
Because it becomes a process.
Yeah.
Like I was the same. I worked for government for it was nearly 10 years, and that was actually one of the things you did. If I went and took over a new team of people, and I would have up to sort of 15 people in a team, I would have to go in, and one of the first things that they told us to do when they trained us in things like leadership was to set expectations. You literally sat down and said, "This is what I expect," and then it's a two-way thing. It wasn't just like a do this or else, but you're like, "These are the things I expect from you." Might be things like KPIs, but it might be like a style of communication or when they should be letting you know things, and vice versa. They would say, "These are the things that we expect as humans, employees, and all those sort of things." So why the hell is it so hard in relationships for people to sit down and say, "This is what I expect"? But it's one of probably the most important things that gets missed.
Yeah.
But then you think, okay, well then, how do people avoid it when it's just themselves?
Yeah.
And I think that you need an incredible amount of self-awareness, or you need to build it.
Yeah.
Because you need to have the same expectation chat with yourself.
Yeah.
Say, this is what I expect. And then you need to go, okay, well, are these expectations built on shoulds or truths?
Yeah.
It's still a hard one because people's truth is different everywhere you go. Let's just say fact.
Yeah.
Are they built on logical progression?
Logic is good, yeah.
Yeah, and just saying, is it possible to do these things? If it is this expectation realistic? Is it helpful? If it's realistic, helpful, and it's based on fact, then sure, entertain it and go, okay, we'll try it out. And then when you go through that and then don't meet the expectation for whatever reason, it's not about going, I should have done better. It's about saying, how could I get that done next time? Or how could I do that differently?
Yeah.
Because the conversation has to change from victim,
Yeah.
and being a victim and putting something like should on it is vague enough to ensure that you remain in the victim state. If you are staying in that saying I should, it's easy to blame yourself, right? Blaming yourself is like the quickest way out.
Yeah.
So people blame themselves because it's easy.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in it.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because that's that's a dangerous ground to get stuck in. I mean, dangerous, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Like, I meaning playing, well, not playing, but being the victim. Like I think because this is a personal development channel. I mean, we've had our fair share of. Sorry about my chair. Just stay still. Of like shit that we've gone through our lives and the problems. Like I've had recent relationship problems that we've had a really good talk about. But it's that mindset where the victim mindset, and what was the other one? Like
like it's the easy way out.
Yeah, it's
victim
feel like
everything
is against you and everyone is against you, and then you sink into the hole of like blaming yourself for everything, and then you go through the motions of like you hate. Hate is a very strong word, by the way. I'd rather use what's another word for hate? Dislike. Dislike is probably hate is a very strong word, but it's that thing. The victim mindset is very dangerous because it just can turn you into a very different person, and it keeps you stuck whichever hole you're in. But I guess the key thing is like coming back rather than thinking should or shouldn't, should have. See what you learned from that experience. See what. Is there any learning you can get from it for your own good, like for yourself?
Yeah.
So you're not stuck in the victim mindset and blaming everything else. It's the fault versus responsibility thing, rather than thinking everything is your fault or their fault. Just see where that could have been responsibility on your part. At the end of the day, you always have to protect your own feelings for your own good. it's just figuring out where you should take responsibility and not blaming everyone for.
Yeah, and I think that you can say that things are your fault without blaming others.
Mm-hmm.
And also actually without blaming yourself, because blame is the second part. It's not doesn't run hand in hand with it.
Yeah.
Because you can accept fault with situations in which you are involved in, but not from a point of view of blaming yourself and saying I should have, could have done differently.
Yeah.
But by saying, okay, well, it could be my fault because of the things that I literally did not do.
Yeah.
But had the opportunity to do. Then you take it from a point of view of growth and change. Like, okay, then next time, what do I do different?
Yeah.
And same with those expectations. Like, just instead of wallowing in it, because it's the easy thing to do.
Yeah.
People go to it and default to it because it's easy just to wallow in self-pity or feel precious about yourself. It's hard to say, how do I change this? What do I do? The reason that people don't default to that, well, not many, is just how difficult it is.
Yeah.
You're just facing something that feels, you know how like you wake up some mornings and you're just comfortable, it's warm, you don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And everything starts to feel like getting out of bed is hard. And the longer you stay there, the harder it gets, right?
Yeah.
That feeling of the point where you have to like, and let's say it's the opposite of that, it was really, really early. Maybe you want to get up early, 5 o'clock, whatever. And to get out of bed and force yourself out of that situation is about the same amount of energy it takes to decide how do I change this instead of I should have done different. I'm useless. I'm a loser.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Versus saying, how can I change this tomorrow? What am I going to do different? And then do it, because doing hard shit is what changes you.
Yeah.
For the better.
Yeah.
You know, hard shit meaning like you set out to do something that's tough. You know it will be hard, and then you just get on and do. That's the bit that makes you better.
Yeah, right? It's like understanding that nothing comes easy, right? We may think that I think it's the difference between thinking that you deserve something and like working for something, like earning something. Like this is like the different, like keep thinking that you deserve something and thinking that you've earned something is very two different feelings, right?
One is entitled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the other one is like, I feel like, I don't know, for me, when I feel like I've literally earned something, it might be like hitting a new PB at the gym.
Yeah, tastes sweeter as well.
Yeah, like, because you've gone through pain to get there. Yeah. Whether it be emotional, physical, just grinding through the work or everything like that, you've forced yourself into it. Yeah. And getting to the end, you go, man, that feels good. Yeah. That reward of it feels real good.
Yeah, exactly. When I was younger, this is a little story. Yeah. My old man, because I grew up in a village, as you know, in Samoa and stuff. So life was hard. Like we had our own like a fruit and veggie patch that we sell to the market or the village and stuff to make money. And so in order to sell that, we had to get up early every morning, just to keep on top of that. Just so we can have something to sell. And like, I mean, it's always shit to do, man. And, you know, I was young and sometimes I complain about fucking not wanting to do that because it's hard and like the sun's hot. And my old man would say, you know, all these things you're learning now, it's like you'll understand when you have your own family. And like when you marry a Samoan girl, you know, the Samoan life is very different. And then I said, well, I'm not marrying a Samoan girl, I'm going to marry a white girl. Palangi, I mean. And he's like, well, Palangi's butt sweat too. You know what I mean? Like, but his point is like, just because someone is what I was trying to say? Because like in Samoa you refer to a Palangi as people like, you know, they're well off. Right. If you see a Palangi, like they're well off, they have money and, you know.
So even if they're Samoan, you can still say that?
What's that?
Even if they're Samoan, you still say that? If they're well off?
Nah, Palangi is like a white person like coming from New Zealand. I'm talking specifically from people that are from New Zealand.
Like, okay, so like
a white person, whenever you see a white person, oh, that person must have money. And
you just
like,
assume that they're well off.
You just assume that they're well off and stuff. So saying that you're marrying a Palangi means you eliminate all the problems that comes with marrying a Samoan. You know what I mean?
The financial
and the hard life and, you know, getting out of the island and things like that. But he's like, well, you know, Apalangi sweat too. They had to work to get to where they are, which is a good point because when
it didn't come for free.
Exactly. So then when I came here, I realized, fuck, it's probably harder to get up early in the morning to go work a 9-to-5 job that you may or may not like, and just, you know, working for the big man that you fucking hate your job and things like that to make the money to go on holiday and things like that. So
I mean, there's no doubt there are more opportunities.
Yeah.
Say in New Zealand than Samoa, just in general because it's bigger.
Yeah.
But likely there are more in say Australia or America than there are in New Zealand. But it really does come down to, like what you say, is that it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
There's still a grind to be had.
Yeah.
And you can expect things to be different, or you can realize that that's not the case.
Yeah.
And that you still have to grind through it.
Yeah. Is that thing where we talked about like thinking that you deserve something and earning it, right? Because it's like nothing really comes to you. You have to fucking earn everything and anything you want. You can't just sit and wait. Even millionaires, man, and the richest people in the world, they still have to do some sort of work. They still have to, you know, you don't stay rich by just sitting on your ass and
you know, there might be some of them that came into it from family stuff, but I'm sure there are a great deal of them that had to really work hard to get what they wanted. Yeah. But that's the expectation thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, whether you expect it, and then I find that people that have that entitled, expectant mindset are the ones that are more often disappointed than the people that had to grind through something and then get out the other end and be grateful for what they have. Yeah. It's just a completely different thing. So it really just all ties into like that should mindset and having expectations built on that, or having expectations built on the fact that you know that you have to work through things to earn them. Yeah. Because an expectation built on that is because expectations isn't the bad thing. But if people feel like they're constantly getting, you know, their life isn't what they want or things like that, it's probably because their expectations are built on a foundation of should or could versus I know it's going to take work. I know it's going to take time. Eventually I will get better because that's what I want. And then they grind through it. And then basing expectations on that, I think they will be more better off, probably well-rounded emotionally. They're not going to face that whole disappointment stuff.
Yeah. And it's like setting realistic expectations as well. Like it's, what you call it, thinking long-term than the short-term.
That's right,
Goals and things like that. You've got to be...
Yeah, playing the long game.
Yeah. And like people don't realize how much work that goes into doing anything that you want to be successful. Like, I mean...
Let's talk about the stuff we're doing, right?
Exactly. We've been talking about it for a long time. But it's like, well... I think we've done enough talking about it and planning, which is rather just dive into it and start doing it.
And I was thinking about this very stuff when I was thinking about what we should be talking about, what we could, what we can talk about. What I wanted to talk about was this stuff, and then I thought about our business stuff. And how we sort of were frustrated and we weren't finding any sort of solid ground with stuff. And it was because I think that I was basing it on should. In my mind, it's like, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And then a couple of months into it going, we should be making more money. We should have more customers, we should have more clients. And then we stopped all that and just said, let's just do this. Let's just do it. And we did, and we are. And while we still don't have the gajillions of customers or whatever that we want, but doesn't it feel way more satisfying? Even though it's hard, there's stuff we don't know. We're trying to do stuff. Man, you should see our studio. We're literally in a room with some random lights, and some windows that don't support us best light-wise. Our equipment is what we could scrape together. But I think the most part is that we're having fun learning, trying stuff. And social media is a pain in the neck. All of it, right? But it's what we want to do, and we know that it's going to be hard, and we don't expect that we're going to be successful next week. You know?
I think when we started out, we set way too high expectations for ourselves, right? Which is, it's not a bad thing, because if we didn't do that, we wouldn't realize this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's what you call it. You always try and see a positive from things that went to shit from a negative situation, right? So if we didn't go through that phase where we're like, written down all these expectations for ourselves, we didn't. Then we wouldn't be at this point where it's like, okay, let's narrow it down. What do we actually? Oh, it's kind of like that taking a step thing that I said to you about the video that I saw, or someone talked about a book, and it said like,
or just one step at a time.
Yeah, you can't see anything like the goal, and it's like, oh, just can you see your next step? I forgot the name of the book. Sorry, I wish I can remember. But I can remember the quote. It's like, can you see your next step? Just take that.
Yeah.
So this is the next step. We've already seen the goal and the place where we want to be. Yeah, and it's no point just sitting there and just looking at that without making small steps getting
doing
to
something
that.
about it.
And I think like for us, we feel like we have a lot of value to add. Well, to give to people in this space and things that we know and have learned ourselves. So, I mean, if we can share that, it gives us so much enjoyment. You don't have to be an expert in everything to know to be able to share that with people. And I think one of the key values of the company, meaning what we're doing, is people, right?
Yeah.
Making connections with people, and feel like if they understand us more and what we're about, that's brand positioning that we were talking about.
Yeah. For anyone that's watching this going, what the hell are they talking about? We run a digital marketing agency, and part of that we run a couple of YouTube channels, as being one of them, and the other one we focus more on marketing and branding,
the creative side of
creative and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that today's chat's been quite good. We've covered a lot of ground. It's been sporadic, and I think that we're good like that. Sporadic in the space of like 30 minutes.
And we can always bring it back to the point. Oh, one thing we didn't talk about was, we remember when I said to you about the might and the maybe.
How much time have we got left?
How much time have we got left?
We've got like 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Well.
So
we'll probably cut it off, didn't we?
I think though, it was because you said that you got into the habit of saying might. Someone says, "Do you want to go do this?" You're like, "Yeah, I might be keen to do that."
Yeah, like my friends, understand what I mean. Though, like it's becoming a bad habit when someone says, "Oh, are you keen to train at 1?" for example. I was like, "Yeah, I might be there at 1." Even though I know that I'm 100% going to be there at 1, it's just it becomes I think it stems from me. It's my fear of letting people down, from past experiences and stuff. And so, even though it's a good thing behind it, I don't feel like it's a good habit to get into that. It's just always trying to cover your tracks in a way. But yeah, I get into the bad habit of just saying I might, even though I know exactly that I'm going to be doing that. But it's just I might be doing that. I might be there. Or maybe knowing that I'll be there, but it's definitely I wouldn't.
So it was a way to protect yourself from feeling like you're letting people down, but at the same time you were still kind of doing it by being non-committal. So we talked about
that's the word I was trying to find. That's a big word for me, non-committal.
But we talked about sticking to the commitment and saying, even if the commitment is just to say yes or no, or if there is something else involved, just say that's what it is. I want to, but I need to check this first. Or I don't want to, so I won't see you there.
Exactly. But I thought I'll just bring that up before you wrap it up.
No, that's good. Thanks very much for stopping by, everyone. Hope that you got some value out of this. Just checking on your expectations, whether they're built on a foundation of something you just shoot all over the place. Make sure that it's at some shaky ground, or if it's on things that you have decided if you really work through logically, is it sound reasoning that's backing up your expectations? Thanks for stopping by the Tenacity Project. I hope you enjoyed our chat today and you got some value out of it. Remember, when you're setting expectations for yourself, make sure they're from a point of view that is helpful, it is logical, it's stemmed from something that you've really thought through, and that when you attack situations after things don't go the way that you expected, that you're asking yourself, how can I do that different, or what can I do to improve it, as opposed to saying, I know I should have done better, I could have done that better, should have done that. That's only going to lead to somewhere that doesn't end helpful. And it's going to hurt your relationship with yourself and the people around you, or the situations you find yourself in. So we'll catch you in the next one. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, like button. They all help, all that sort of jazz, or don't, whatever. And we'll see you in the next video.
And thank you for keeping up with us.
Yeah, just thanks for
yeah.
We love it.
Right. Cheers.
See you.
Peace.